Lou Diamond. He's not just the hair club president, he's a client too.
Want to learn from those that are taking their lives, their businesses, and their passions to the next level? Best-selling author of Master the Art of Connecting and professional speaker Lou Diamond is here to connect you to some of the most inspiring and amazing people on the planet. Get ready to thrive loud with Lou Diamond.
Welcome, everyone, to another spectacular episode of Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond, connecting into the most inspiring and amazing people that are thriving each and every day. I'm your host, Lou Diamond. Today on Thrive Loud, we have a transformational keynote speaker and international teacher. His passion is inspiring people to develop and trust their intuition, integrate their life wisdom, and to cultivate the courage to take heroic action. His winding life path of being a mechanical engineer, firefighting, stand-up comedian, doctor will entertain and enlighten you in a way that invites you to get clear about what you love and start living it today. Thrive Loud listeners, my very good friend and soon to be yours, Dr. Morgan Oakes. Morgan, how are you today?
Yeah, doing well. Great to be here, Lou.
Morgan and I met before the pandemic. There seemed to be something that happened over the last 2 years. And one of the two things that happened is that he's trying to show me off by just growing a lot more hair than I could ever put on the top of my head.
one of the side effects of COVID for sure.
First of all, welcome to the program. Good to see you. And I wanted to kind of dive in a little here because we've had a lot of people are going through lots of different things in the last 2 years and messages that people are trying to inspire others. You happen to be one of those inspirational types of coaches that focuses on that. Let's do a little rewind to bring our listeners a little up to speed. I don't want to go all the way to the womb. I just want to go back a little bit to know how this became the main focus of the gig that you're doing now.
Yeah, I think throughout my life, I would get my mind set on what I thought I needed to be doing. First, it was engineering, then it was chiropractic, then it was, adding these other pieces in. And each time I kept discovering there was another level. And if I tried to think through it, I wouldn't necessarily end up at the best place. But if I had, those ahas, those epiphanies, kind of those things that came in unexpected, those were where the real magic was. Mm-hmm. And along the way, I kept discovering I kept being the block in my own life. And so it just brought me more out of engineering and working directly with the body as a chiropractor. And it just kept expanding into different areas of personal growth, empowerment, how to be my best self, and then how can I share that with friends, family, patients, clients?
Morgan, this is interesting because one would actually argue, obviously, in the work you're doing as being a coach, is that you're helping to move people onward and upward and take them to that next level. One would also argue in your previous work as a doctor in chiropractic that you were helping them just be able to stand up or alleviate pain. And that's actually where I wanted to go with this. Do you think that part of the thing that you're about is solving problems and helping people kind of figure out how they can solve them too?
Absolutely. And, and in the beginning, and I think many people start out this way, I was trying to solve problems for myself. Right. And when I would figure it out, then there's those people closest to me that I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I don't want you to suffer. I don't want you to take the long road. Like, here's what I found out. And I just kept sharing. And, even within my chiropractic practice, when you look at the research, of the top 10 predictors for chronic low back pain, only 3 of them are physical, right? So if we're not addressing mental, emotional, if we're not addressing conscious and unconscious beliefs, we're really missing a major part of it. And then I had, kind of a spiritual awakening that took things more into the energetic realms and just all these different pieces kept coming in. And I kept noticing the overlaps between all of them. And usually people will focus on what's different about modalities, techniques, ways up the mountain. And instead, I kept really noticing all the similarities and how I could weave them together to get, a synergy of positive outcomes.
I kind of like this. The winding path that you mentioned that I read in the bio goes from the very technical like mechanical engineering into really helping and taking all different bounds. So from like science to spirit. And I want to ask you that question. That's you are a doctor. Is that something that you kind of feel is like that's really your kind of unique thing, right? Because you've got the balance of both worlds and are trying to help bring them together. Do you feel you're bringing that into the message you talk about and the work you do?
I do think that overlap is kind of my gift, right?
Yeah.
The synergy of those two. And it's interesting. A lot of times in my chiropractic practice, I'll meet people, neck pain, low back pain, headaches, whatever they're coming in for. And then there's always something else that it expands out into. And in other places, if I'm talking to like a spiritual group, I'll meet them where they're wanting to be, but usually they're trying to ignore their physical body, or they're trying to ignore high performance, coaching principles, or, so really meeting people where they're at and then adding in those pieces they've probably forgotten about or consciously ignored to really help them get where they're saying that they're wanting to go.
What are you seeing today? We're recording this in April of 2022. By the way, Morgan and I met at a conference in San Diego back in 2019, which is kind of crazy. Actually, we were talking about that before we went on the air. What are you seeing today are the most common issues that your clients are facing, the ones you're helping to coach? Is there a commonality maybe that you're seeing that you're, is it an issue of just everyone, the whole world is pivoting and they're trying to figure out what to do next? Is it more personal things? I'd love to know from your perspective, without revealing too much, if there's a theme that you're trying to see, that you're seeing more of.
Yeah. One thing I would say that all the things that were true pre-COVID are also true right now. They're just more highlighted. Right. So that maybe the little thing that was going wrong in health, business, relationship, balance, whatever it is, that may have been a little issue in 2019. It's probably a huge issue now. And so what I'm really finding with people is we have to let go of truth and become flexible. And I'm saying little t truth, like what we thought was true. We have to be able to let go of that enough to find out what's actually true for us right now. Right. Like what I did for mental health and emotional health, 2019, it stopped working in the last 2 years, right? It wasn't enough. What I may have done for my physicality, let's go to a longer time frame. What I did to be fit in my 20s, very different than what I do in my 40s. What I did in my relationship during the honeymoon phase is very different than what I do as we're in flow. And so for everybody, I think it's forced upon us this greater level of flexibility, of letting go of what we thought was true or what worked for us, or even what our pathway forward was, right? Especially in business. You as a motivational speaker, there's so much that you had to pivot on in the last 2 years. And so I'm really just trying to help people let go of their attachment, get super conscious about what they're wanting as an outcome or an experience, and then giving them tools and resources to step more fully into that.
I never knew this about you, but when I read it in the bio, I was dying to know a little bit more about it. Are you still doing stand-up comedy? And I never knew that you did it.
Gotcha. Stand-up was something I got into at the end of my engineering career, and then in my beginning of my chiropractic career. And it was really like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Like during the week, I was Dr. Oaks. I would wear a dress shirt, and on the weekends, I would drive 60 miles away to do stand-up. And then I started realizing that I liked speaking about things with maybe deeper meaning, depth to them, which is how I got into speaking. And to be honest, at this point, like I'm finding more and more humor in life. And so we were supposed to go watch some amateur stand-up on Monday night. And I think I'm going to dive back into it just to be a little more playful. I think the world's needing more of that now.
So this is actually a really key message. And I'm glad I have you on, Morgan, because I think, and I'm not trying to say that some of the traditional work that you did in the past or the things that you studied was more concrete and this other stuff feels a little bit more fluid, right? I don't believe that. I believe I'm a big fan of I'll have the potpourri menu. I want everything, right? Yeah. We need a little bit of everything in our lives. And I'd love to share with the listeners, if you could, how you balance all of this together, right? There's the spiritual work that you're doing, there's stuff you do for yourself, there's concrete pieces, how you're able to balance that in, because I think that actually is incredibly healthy. And it's stuff that you give advice to when you speak about, but for yourself, I'd love to kind of understand that too.
Yeah. You know what? I love frameworks. Like I love metaphors. I love things I can really get a hold of with my mind and then start trying to figure out where you go from there. So one way to look at it is season, reason, or a lifetime, right? There's certain athletic, like I was a rugby player for a season of my life, right? Hopefully I'm heart-centered and kind and compassionate and loving for a lifetime. There's people that come in and out. There's business focuses that come in and out. And, I try to look at it that way of like, what's going to serve me to get where I'm going? What might be a deficiency right now? What do I need to lean into? And, for me, when I left rugby, I really moved into like spirituality, meditation, these like more compassionate, kinder things. But the reality is there's a part of me that's a bit of a warrior that needs like that masculine, kind of aggressive output or outlet. So I just stepped back into doing jujitsu. Cool. Not stop back into it, but just stepped into it because I'm like, I need a little bit more testosterone, a little more aggression to balance things out, right? I take work and a lot of the things I'm doing very seriously. So I'm like, if I could just sprinkle in a little bit of comedy, not like a part-time job, but like something that when I'm out in public, my mind will be actively looking for those parts of life that are worth laughing about. So I kind of sprinkle and mix things in like, oh, maybe my spouse and I aren't having enough time one-on-one. Cool. It's time to implement a solid once a week date night. Right. So I'm always looking for like, where's the deficiency? Where's the growth edge? And I actually call it cross training for the soul.
Oh, I like that.
Right. Like I know the stand-up comedy is going to make my on-stage speaking better. I know doing jiu-jitsu is going to make it easier to do sales, cold sales calls. Right. So I think all this stuff feeds into it. And
I do feel that a lot of sales calls can be very, very, contactual. So.
Yeah. If you can access that warrior piece, a simple little phone calls requires less courage to step into. So
let me double click down on this more. I'd love to know this. Look, on the days that you've got this balance going on, you're thriving in your career, you're thriving in your speaking, your coaching, and all that work. But we all have days when we're a little off our game. And we're not quite kicking on all cylinders. Morgan Oakes, when you have trouble thriving, what practice do you seek, or maybe which individual do you seek out to get yourself back on the thriving track?
Yeah. I think about us in our bodies and in our lives, kind of like driving a car. Do we know where the brake is? Do we know where the gas is? Do we know those different pieces? And first of all, I try to have a solid morning practice all the time. So it takes out the variability. And some days, I might get mid-morning and I'm spun out for whatever reason, and I think the old part of me would maybe pound some caffeine and muscle through. There's a part of me now that I just try to ask better questions. Like, am I tired? Do I actually need like a 20-minute nap to get on this? Is there something that's spinning in the background that I just need to like knock out or take care of so I can set it aside and move forward? I really try to just be good at self-diagnosis. Like, why am I not on board today, and move forward with it? And then the more spiritual part of me, there's a lot going on in the planet. Like when I might see, let's say 30 chiropractic patients in a day, I might show up that morning and just be like, I feel off. I feel weird, a little bit, sad, or, and after seeing 30 people in a day, 15 of them might mention the same thing. And then when I get home, and I don't typically watch the news, but I might get home and go, oh, something major happened in kind of the energy of the world. And I'm like, oh, maybe me feeling off wasn't exactly mine. Right. So I try to go, is this mine? If so, take care of it. If it's not mine, what do I need to do to get boosted so I can show up and be present with, if it's a client, a patient, just a task I'm knocking out in the office.
I like it. Let's do the admin part of the show, Morgan. Share with the listeners all the places people can learn about you, websites, URLs. We will put it in the show notes, but it always gets more engagement when they hear it from you.
Awesome. So all my stuff is drmorganoakes.com, OAKS. So Dr. Morgan Oakes, at Instagram, at Facebook, same thing on LinkedIn. And then
you didn't have to fight anybody for it. You didn't have a name that overlapped with a famous actor or anything like that. You didn't have to deal with that headache,
Exactly. I noticed that with yours, and I'm like, yeah, didn't have to deal with that one, thankfully.
No, we didn't. We just made everything thrive loud. It was a lot easier.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for that. Morgan, can we, as I love to say it, go down Fun Street?
Absolutely.
Can you share with the listeners what you shared with me was one of your all-time favorite movies?
Yeah, when you asked that question, it went a lot of different places, and where it landed was The Doors.
Listeners need to know, they're going to see by the album art. I might have to do a comparison of Val Kilmer acting as Jim Morrison, and the picture that you'll see is the podcast artwork of what Morgan looks like. I think there's a reason for that. I think you guys could be brothers.
Yeah, but it's so funny. Like, I remember watching that movie in high school. I loved the music and to be honest, probably a lot of the wildness. And then years later, when I started getting into shamanism and some of that, like going back to those and seeing how strongly he was tied to that kind of spiritual form of creating transformation with a group.
Yeah.
It's probably not an accident that one pops up for me.
It makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
All right. I want to do the speed round here of Fun Street. I am so curious to see where this goes, Morgan. I'm going to ask you something, and I want the first thing that comes to your mind. These are things that lift you up, that make you feel good, that motivate you, that basically make you thrive. You ready?
Yep.
Okay. Of late, a song that you love to listen to, or one that pumps you up?
Oh, shoot. It's a song that was sent to me by somebody else that was at that event. I actually don't remember the name of it, but maybe I'll send it to you afterward. You can put it in the show note. And it's just this random band that,
all right,
makes
random,
me feel good.
The random music, which our producers will somehow integrate into this episode, which I like.
Perfect.
A favorite food that is not a dessert?
Oh, always Mexican food.
Okay, what kind of Mexican? Is there one of the Mexican foods that you like more than another?
You know what? In all things, I like a mixture. Okay. So like a taco, a burrito, beans, rice.
We're starting to see that, by the way. We're going to get a theme here that's all a little bit of a blend for Morgan.
Yeah.
Gotcha. A favorite dessert?
A favorite dessert, simple ice cream, chocolate.
I like it. An activity you wish you did more of?
Oh, just walking in nature, being out there.
An activity you wish you did less of?
Sitting at my computer and getting tasks done.
Tasks done. Oh, interesting. Or having to do the tasks. I think getting them done is probably a good thing, right?
Yeah.
If I could snap my fingers, Morgan, and you could be anywhere in the world, where are you?
Nicaragua. Southern Nicaragua. I was there just last summer. It was just a number of surf beaches in southern Nicaragua that are amazing.
So lastly, to wrap this up, last time I spoke with you, you were in the Pacific Northwest, and now you're coming to us here from Colorado. Something changed in your life in between now and then?
Yeah. So right after the pandemic started, this woman reached out to me, Stephanie James, to have me on her radio show and podcast. And we had a conversation like this, and we're like, it seems like we have more to talk about. So we scheduled another Zoom call, and the next one went for 4.5 hours. And then we just never stopped talking. So this brought me back to the town I lived in 10 years ago before I moved to Seattle.
Congratulations, man. That's awesome stuff. Pretty crazy. See, loving podcasts, man. Who the hell would have known it would have come this way?
Yep. Loving a time of Corona. So
cross training for the soul. Morgan Oakes, loved it. Thanks for coming on the program today. Thanks for sharing your gifts. And I think we all got a little sense of the importance of balancing all this stuff together, which you're doing every day. So thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah. Thanks for the great conversation, Lou.
You got it, man. And to all our listeners out there, thank you for joining us. And until next time, keep moving onward and upward. And remember, be brief, be bright, be gone.
You've been listening to Thrive Loud with your host, Lou Diamond. Check us out on the web at thriveloud.com and follow us on Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook at Thrive Loud. And check us out on the Good Pods app at Thrive Loud, where you can follow, listen, and connect directly to Lou and all of the Thrive Loud episodes. Thanks for listening.